Hello and welcome to Lessons on with yours truly, Nomfanelo, where this will be all about writing an active monologue for film and TV. So welcome to part 2 of active monologue for film and TV, which I call the who, the what, and the why, where essentially it's all about character, where I talk about the speaking character, who the listener is, the recipient, and essentially establishing the purpose of the monologue. So I do recommend you guys watch part 1 if you have not, where essentially I talk about what is an active monologue. And let's begin. So, who is the speaking character? Well, it usually is either the protagonist or the antagonist, but also too, it could be a supporting character. You could, such as like the mentor, the sidekick, or the love interest. So as I mentioned in part 1, I'll be using Raul Silva from Skyfall as the main example moving forward in terms of the active monologue. So he serves as the antagonist of the movie. So his real name is Tiago Rodriguez, but he uses Raul Silva as his fake name. So he is essentially a former MI6 agent turned cyber terrorist. So essentially what happens with him, so like when the movie starts, like there is these series of events where various agents' identities have been leaked online, and he threatens to expose them publicly, and he always ends like with this phrase, "Think on your sins." And so essentially, like he exposes the agents who end up getting kidnapped or tortured or killed, and also too, lost my train of thought. So he's not seen like for most of the movie because he's pretty much referenced by other characters as being like a big threat. And it is pretty clear that he has a personal vendetta against M, because what happened is that when he used to work for MI6, he decided to hack into China's system, which raised a lot of alarms, and I think he got kidnapped, and then M decides, you know what, you could have him exchange give us our agents. And essentially, like, Silva is very disappointed that essentially M betrayed him. And apparently, like, his injuries are so severe that he wears a prosthetic to conceal his disfigurement. And so in terms of physicality, he has blonde hair. He can be very, I guess, flamboyant. And you could say too, like, he is a bit of a master in disguise. And he is kind of like arrogant, but he doesn't want to say he's arrogant, which is hilarious. So essentially for him, he has the goal, he wants to kill M, essentially because he's pissed that she sold him to the Chinese government after he hacked into their system in exchange for a captured agent after he hacked into their secret files. So essentially, like with the monologue that I'll be focusing on with him is essentially his first appearance on screen. This is after when James Bond was captured. So let's go on here. So going back to the question, so what problem or problems arise for the character and why is the character telling the story? So there needs to be a conflict that stirs a conflict or an obstacle that stirs the character to take action. And you also have to think, like, what is the character's goal and who or what will influence their choice of actions. And through dialogue, you need to let the audience know why the character is saying or doing the things that they're doing. So let's go to next slide, with the next question here: to whom is the character speaking? So it could be a range, whether it could be someone they know, like a friend, a family member, or a colleague, or it could be a complete stranger, someone that they've never met before in their life. So you need to consider what is their relationship. So obviously, if the character speaking to a stranger, they don't know who they are, but it's possible that they might know like their reputation, or maybe like the character has a grudge, maybe because of gender or ethnicity, something like that. While like if it's someone that they're close to, the dialogue is going to be more informal, right? Because since they're familiar with each other, rather than if it's more of a formal relationship, let's say like a boss employee or a teacher student or so forth. So you have to think, how does the character relate to this person? The choice of words or phrases and the pacing of dialogue will give the audience the relevant information. So you do not need to be literal with the dialogue in terms of their relationship, but going back to Brian's monologue from Taken, he doesn't know who the kidnapper is, so his words are very direct. He's saying, because you have a lot of I's, like I will, I this, and I that. So, and with the dialogue, I'll get into that in part 4. But yeah, just consider like the phrase or the words choice when it comes to the character delivering their monologue to either a specific person or a specific group. So with Silva's monologue, so I will not play the video for copyright reasons, but I will post the link for that in the description for you guys to check out. So as I said, this here focuses on his first appearance on screen. This is after when James Bond is captured. So we know he's the speaking character. So what problems arise for this character? So Bond's devotion to M and his patriotism. So because essentially here he's trying to convince Bond to like, hey, join up with me, because essentially he's find M is a traitor and disregards agents, and he has, like I said, a personal grudge against M after what happened in China, even though he's the one that caused the problem. But obviously villains, or you can say characters in general, may not see that way from their own perspective. So in terms of the why, he's telling the story because he wants to convince Bond to side with him. Now, in terms of the when it's happening, we know like it's in the present, and this was when after Bond gets captured by Silva's henchmen. And the where it's happening, it is takes place in his island that's off the coast of Macau. And James Bond is the recipient or the listener. And how does he try to resolve the problem? It's through manipulation. So some tips on how to, on the speaking character. So know your character inside out in terms of needs, desires, behavior, appearance, and so forth. So it'll be helpful if you draft, let's say, like a mini biography where you could detail like their date of birth, where they come from, and in terms of like how their upbringing. You could essentially do that, let's say, up until the point of the first introduction on the script, for example. So I find that's very helpful so that, you know, like in terms of creating like the dialogue, going back to the bio of the character is beneficial. The reason to address the recipient or recipients needs to be important and specific. So like going back to Silva's monologue, the reason why he's telling the story is to convince Bond to side with him, but knows that it's going to be tricky because of his loyalty to M and to his country, which is England. So determine how the character attempts to resolve the problem either through dialogue and or action. So like with the Silver monologue, like I'll be mainly focusing on the speech, but with the clip on YouTube, it does expand on that, where he tries to tell the results of his various tests that he had to do before going back to the field. And he does some tactics which are questionable, perhaps. So essentially, he uses a lot of manipulation. And you could say from his vantage point, he's telling the truth. But is it the truth? I mean, we shall see. And also to develop a distinct voice for the characters. So like when writing the character, maybe try to like go in their shoes, like try to imagine like the life as if you are the character. So in terms of distinct voice, so it could be like the choice of words. So maybe the character has an accent, or like maybe based on where they're from, like they might speak differently, or they might view like the world differently compared to everyone else. So that pretty much concludes part 2. And the next video will be part 3, which I call the time and the place, which is all about time and setting and how that's important for the monologue. So the link for the clip will be posted in the description. And you can find also to link to my socials in the description. And I want to say thank you guys so much for checking out this video, and see you on the next one.